Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Khalid Masood Kareem. I will show you the top 20 weekly volume leaders of the Karachi Stock Exchange. The Karachi Stock Exchange 100 Index closed at 33,931 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 33,850 level. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 35,399 and 32,131. The technical indicators are neutral and sideways behavior will continue unless it announces a bullish breakout by a close above the 36,273 level. The Unity Foods closed at 13.45 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 13. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 15.60 and 12.12. Technically, the upside nervous move is likely to continue. The HASCOL closed at 14.74 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 14.57. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 15.48 and 11.65. Sideways trend is likely to continue. The TRG closed at 28.55 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 27.49. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 33 and 22. Strong upside move is likely to continue and may challenge the overhead resistance at 33 level. The Maple Leaf Cement closed at 25.93 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 25.74. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 28.79 and 25.12. Technically, it is trading sideways within a small triangle. The Fauji Foods closed at 10.78 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 10.52. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 12.63 and 10.22. Technically, it is trading within a rising flag. The PAC Electron closed at 23.26 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 23.03. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 24.98 and 20.85. Technically, it is trading sideways. The Pakistan Petroleum closed at 93.74 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 93.32. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 107 and 92.71. Technically, it is trading within a rising wedge pattern. The JSCL closed at 13.81 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 13.27. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 15.92 and 12.37. Technically, it is in resting phase of the ongoing bull run. The K Electric closed at 3.16 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 3.13. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 3.45 and 2.50. Technically, if it overcomes the immediate resistance, which is at 3.22 level, then it may test the next resistance. The Avancion closed at 39.83 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 38.18. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 43.14 and 36.23. Technically it is trading within an expanding pattern, with two upside and downside touches of the trend lines. It is rising and may test again the overhead trend line, which is at 43.14 level. This will be a fifth touch. It may reverse back to the pattern, or it may announce a bullish breakout by closing above 43.14. You can judge its next behavior by noting your pet indicators. The HUM network closed at 11.60 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 11.62. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 13.94 and 9.29. Appearance of small candle with less weekly volume as compared to last week's volume raises technical suspicions about the next move by the stock. The bulls of this stock should be aware of two critical levels, which are 11.15 and 10.61. Idea of further move to upside will remain valid as long it remains above 11.15. But if it breaches the 10.61 level, say goodbye to the bulls temporarily. The SEARL closed at 200.86 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 202.59. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 225.01 and 186.05. The stock managed to close above the red-colored, internal trend line, but produced a small black candle. This bullish breakout will be confirmed, if the stock doesn't falls below this red-colored trend line. Close above the previous week's high may result in more gains. How to construct an internal trend line? The red-colored internal trend line is constructed by joining the closes of two white candles, and the blue-colored internal trend line is created by joining the close of a doji with the close of the black candle. Both are extended to the right side. The oil and gas development closed at 114.60 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 112.43. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 115.90 and 111.06. The stock is within the weekly gap. Close above the 115.90 may lead to more upside gains, but a close below the 111.06 may push it below the blue-colored trend line. The indicators are neutral. The niche HUMNL closed at 74.35 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 72.32. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 80.85 and 61.52. The stock is trading sideways and is likely to remain range-bound. The World Call Telecom closed at 0.89 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 0.90. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 1.08 and 0.72. The stock is trading within an expanding pattern and will declare a new direction very soon. The Pioneer Cement closed at 61.53 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 60.29. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 66.99 and 56.51. The stock is trading sideways within the weekly resistance and support range. The technical indicators are neutral. The PIBTL closed at 9.17 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 9.19. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 10.05 and 8.80. The stock is trading sideways within the triangle. The technical indicators are neutral. The SUI Northern Gas Pipelines closed at 56.06 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 54.88. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 60.05 and 51.01. The stock is trading sideways within the triangle. The technical indicators are neutral. The N gross fertilizer closed at 59.78 level on May 29, 2020. The close is below the weekly pivot level of 60.55. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 61.45 and 59.50. The stock is trading sideways, but the technical indicators are negative, and may induce a negative correction. The Côte d'Ivoire Power Company closed at 23.45 level on May 29, 2020. The close is above the weekly pivot level of 23.38. The weekly resistance and support levels are at 24.96 and 20.01. The stock is trading sideways, but its technical indicators are positive, and may induce a rally. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.